Now, the other structure, the more important one, in fact, the most important one, is the skeletal structure. And these may look very, very strange at first. You may be hesitant to actually draw them, but you will, after the second, third chapter, you will say, yes, these make sense and I would like to use them. So skeletal structures, the word skeletal means, stripped all the way to the basic atoms and actually lines. Of course, some atoms will be shown to clarify, not to confuse the reader. Here, it assumes that the carbon atom is located at the junction of any two lines or at the end of a line. What does that mean? So we're not going to show carbons anymore. You won't see them unless you show the structural formula or a structure, the formula. But you're going to, let's say you have this. This is going to indicate that there's a carbon here, there's a carbon there, and there's a carbon in the middle. The junction and at the end of the lines. Now, with that, you're also going to assume that each carbon has enough hydrogens to give the octet. So, I'm going to show you side by side what the structure means. Okay. Now, remember carbon, the honk 1, 2, 3, 4. Carbon has to have 4 bonds. So we're going to assume, here's the line, you see it, that each carbon has enough hydrogens. So basically the ones at the end, since they have only a carbon-carbon bond, they have to compensate with 3 other hydrogens. And you see them here. Now the one in the middle is going to have only 2, because again, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 bonds. So again, we're not going to show the H's either, but you're going to know that they are there. Once again, it's going to take time to practice, but you will get good at it. Draw all non-carbon atoms. Now, those you have to draw. You cannot simply skip an N or an O. You have to draw the N and the O. And you have to draw the H's if they are directly bonded to them. Otherwise, we can't assume that they are there. It's going to make a big difference. So please make sure you draw the H's attached to an N and an O. So if you end up with this, notice how I'm drawing an NH2. I didn't say N, because we might think that it's an N with lone pairs on it, and that makes it a whole different substance. Lone pairs are not drawn but assumed, so you will not see lone pairs again, but you will again use your octet rule understanding to know that it has to have an octet. And the charge must be drawn. So if you have a negative, you have to put it. Etc. Okay. All right, so let's see how this works. So I'm going to put the lone pairs on these just so that we see how they're not shown. And then we're going to practice. Okay. You have a choice. This is like a zigzag line. You can start with from up, down, or down, up, top to bottom, or bottom to top. It doesn't matter. What I mean is this. You can start like this, or you can start like that. I mean, this, then that, or this, then that. It's really up to you. Let me show you. Okay, here's a carbon. I'm going, let's say, I like to always start from the bottom to the top. So I go like this. Okay. Now, this, believe it or not, took care of carbons 1, and 2. So I'm going to number them. Here's carbon 1, here's carbon 2. So here's carbon 1, there's carbon 2. Okay, what's coming after that? Carbon 3. Well, if I have up, now it has to be down. And then one thing before you continue is, so again, you have 3. So here's 3. Okay, now 3 is attached to 4. Here's 4. But wait, we can't go. So you might be asking, okay, well, what happened to 3? 3 has something on it. You're right. So what does 3 have on it? And let me erase the 3 here, just move it around. 3 has an oxygen that's double bonded. So you have to include it. So how do I do that? Okay. Yep, you draw the double bond, just simply like that. Okay. Now what's on 4? We don't show the H's, but we do show an NH2. So here's the structure. Trust me, I'm neither when I'm in class, but this is the software. It's a little bit difficult to work with. But you can see my structure is right there. I did not show the H's. I cannot show the H's. So I may know this is there's a carbon here, there's a carbon there, carbon, carbon. Here's an oxygen, here's a nitrogen with these 2 hydrogens. And I know that each has an octet. So you might ask, how do I know if it has an octet or if it doesn't have an octet, then it's going to have a positive charge. Again, going back to the formal charges. Okay, so let's work on this one. How do we do this one? So I'm going to number them. Here's 1, 2. Okay, not sure why it's not numbered. Okay. It's not numbering. I don't know why. Okay, let's see. Let's see. 1. Never mind. Okay, so we'll just hang on. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay, so we go this carbon and that carbon. There's 1, 2. This is carbon 1. That's carbon 2. Okay, what's on the first? What's on the first carbon? Only H's. So what's on the second carbon? Well, there's an H, but there's also a Cl. So here I can include the Cl right there. Next one is 3. There's an H, but there's also a Cl. So there it is down here. Here's carbon 4. What's on carbon 4? Okay. So let me number them for you so you won't. 2, 3, here's 4. There's 4 right there. Okay, so you have 2 CH3s. Okay, how do I show them? Do I draw 2 CH3s? No. This is what you do. 2 lines. Remember, at the end there's a carbon, and it's assumed that it's a CH3, or it's called a methyl group. There's a CH3. 4, then you have 5. This is the 5th carbon. What's attached to it? There's a Br attached to it. And then 6th carbon. There's only H's attached to it, so we don't show anything else. 7th carbon, nothing on it either. So let me keep up with the numbers here so you can see them. Now, the 8th carbon has a CH3 on it, so that's just a line. 9th carbon there's only H's, and then there's an OH, so we just end it with this right here. Okay, I'm sure you have some questions now, such as, can I point this down? Can this go down, or this BR go up? The answer is, while it's possible, it is not acceptable in the sense that if this is pointing down, then you should actually draw it down. So no. So the answer is yes. So the answer is that it has to go up with a line or down if it's pointing downward. So you might be saying this, can I draw this? No. So this would be acceptable, okay, like in VR versus this. So this is the one we're going to go with, and it's actually, it makes it look actually easier to read, much easier to read.